Good morning. This is the Blaine World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can find out more information and check out past shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the nation. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my guest today, and he is Dennis Ray, publisher of Rapid River Magazine, Arts and Culture. And welcome aboard, Dennis. You may have done so already, but feel free to wave to anybody who's watching this. So that's Dennis Ray. I think he beat me to it. Dennis Ray started Rapid River Magazine, Arts and Culture in 1997, initially as a literary digest, but then he began to focus more on the local arts and culture scene of Western North Carolina. And so the first question I asked Dennis when I meet somebody for the first time is, you grew up where?
I grew up in Arizona.
Okay. And so growing up in Arizona, did you always know as a kid you wanted to be a publisher of an art type magazine?
No, I as a kid, I was always interested in the arts, and my father was an artist, so the arts was kind of a part of my life growing up, hitting the circuit, stuff like that.
Now, as a child or growing up, were you an artist or were you in that field?
A little bit. I just kind of always enjoyed art classes, and whenever they came around, and reveled in them. But I never really focused that that was going to be my future. I had no idea what I was going to do.
So then take it, if you would, from growing up in Arizona. What got you to Arizona? Excuse me, to Asheville.
Asheville, I-40. I had
Okay.
I'd never heard of Asheville before, and I was uh so I was like 20, 26, 27, and I just wasn't too sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to try to do something in the arts, and I knew that it wasn't in Arizona, it was going to be in somewhere else. And so I just had it like a 1981 Toyota Corolla, and I packed up the dog and everything I owned, and just in that little car, and just headed east, and stopped at Biltmore Village, and thought, oh, hey, this is a really kind of a cute little town. And then I obviously got back on and started heading on to Raleigh, because I thought Raleigh would be the place to go. And when I got there, it looked just like Phoenix. It was really crowded, a lot of people.
Right.
And I thought, oh, that Asheville is sure cute. And I thought, but since I was working with the Olive Garden at the time, I was promised a job wherever I went in the country. They said, just show up and we'll get you a job. And I noticed that there was an Olive Garden in Asheville. So I came up here, found a roommate, and I think I had like $500 to my name. So it was just, by the time I got here, I think I had less than 200. And I found a guy that was willing to let me pay for just the last few days of the month. And I got a job at the Olive Garden, and then started working. And then 6 months later, I started the magazine.
Is that the Olive Garden still in Asheville?
Yeah, the one
On
on Tunnel Road.
Okay, but so you saw the magazine. Were you still working at Olive Garden at the time? Did you stay with them for a
Yes,
while?
I did. I worked until about 2003. And then I was making enough money off the publication to basically work full time just on the magazine, and not have to make ends meet through waiting tables.
Okay, very cool. So then let's start when you came to Asheville. So did you start the magazine right away, or how long did it take you to start the magazine?
Well, I started it in March of '97. So I arrived here in September, mid-September of '96, and then I got an office over at 70 Woodfin Place, which was an old hospital. And at the time, they were offering these little tiny rooms, about 100 square feet, and it was like, oh, $75 a month. And when I called them up to see about getting the office, I thought that was weekly. And they go, no, 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 that's monthly. And I was like, this is perfect. So I had an office. And of course, this was back, you remember, before anyone had email really, and anyone had any kind of mm, you basically had to have a downtown presence. in order to get get people involved or get files or get folders. Everything had to be hand delivered. And so I got the office and got a phone and worked with a couple people. I didn't know anything about running a business, and I ended up meeting with other people my age, and we all worked together on putting the magazine out. And they helped me out until they no longer could help me out. They moved on or did something on their own, and then just simply um, became a, a magazine that then I just kept hiring people to work, and I hired people to do the layout and do the ad sales and run a lot of other things. And I didn't think I had it in me to do all that. And then when COVID hit, I discovered very quickly I could do it all and do it better, in the sense that because I knew what I wanted, than having to, micromanage or work with somebody else. It was always a pain, because I'm not that kind of person. I do better just doing it on my own. And then here we are here.
That's pretty cool. So at the time, you had no experience putting out a magazine. You just kind of picked it up on your own.
Yeah, no, none. I originally I can't remember the guy's name, but I met this poet, and he was putting out these chapbooks, and he'd staple them together, and I thought, well, that's kind of neat. Maybe we could do a literary digest. I was thinking do a literary digest, and I would get Xerox them and sell them for, like, a dime or whatever, just as a fun little chapbooks. And this other guy was working at the Olive Garden, said, no, 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 you need to do it with a web press, and the web press is with a newspaper press. And he's like, you got to um, do it this way, because I have a buddy down in Florida, and every time he needs to make a little bit of money to pay for whatever, he just goes out and sells more ads. It's like printing money. And so that's how it started. And it was never easy, but it was definitely a learning thing.
Let me jump in here a second. We're back again with Dennis Ray, who was talking about his experiences with starting Rapid River Magazine Arts and Culture. Let me even ask you that question, Dennis. How did you come up with the name for the magazine? Was it that name from day one?
Well, it was because it was not a magazine at the time when I was thinking of doing it. It was going to be like a chapbook, and so I was thinking, what I need to do is come up with a clever name that would be symbolic of literature, like it's a river, and you know all that metaphor stuff. And so when I was getting the office, they asked me, "What's the name of your business?" And I hadn't thought of one, but I thought, well, that might work. So I just called it Rapid River, and next thing, then it just kind of stuck. And then, of course, it's hasn't been easy, because people have constantly thought it was a rafting magazine, and
Right. Yeah.
that has probably been, but live and learn, because I was young and didn't really think it mattered. Um, as well. I guess it's fine. It's, I had to put the Rapid River really small and make arts and culture pretty big, prominent on the masthead, so people would know what it is.
Now, when you were getting this off the ground too, what was it like also selling advertising? Because again, it's a new magazine. Nobody ever heard of it. I assume you didn't have a background in advertising up to that point in
No, I did not, and I was I
time.
still am a horrible salesperson. I'm not. That's not my. It's not what I'm good at, and so a lot of times, like now, I just don't. I never sell ads. It's never been something I do, and I found out that it's just better to meet people, and then they say, "Oh well, we could ride along and with the magazine and say, the magazine is reaching these people, and we'd like to reach these people as well." So they've always called me, and then we've been doing okay. But I'm not I'm not a people person very well. I'm more of an introvert.
Well, that's why I'm giving you so much credit for starting this endeavor, because this endeavor is a thing that involves lots of people,
Right.
that you had to, well, let's talk about that even to the extent that you were telling me off the air that pretty much now it's a staff of one, it's you, but
Yeah.
other people are involved in putting this together. Talk about who else gets involved in putting together the every month, the issue. You have other
Well,
people.
let's see. I have essay writers, and they're basically just like when columnists. I don't tell them what to write. Um, they're free to talk about what they want to talk about, and they send me the articles, and have been doing it for like 20 some years too. So they've been with me the whole time. I think, um, yeah, like probably my favorite one that I personally like looking forward toward is uh oh, pretty much all of them, but I love the health section, and Max Hammond, Dr. Max Hammond does that, and it's really informative as far as me personally saying, hey, this is something I really get into. Um, we also have Bill Walls. He's pretty well known in the Asheville area. He's I'm not too sure what you would call his job description, but the articles that he writes is under Zen philosophy. And then we have Marcianne Mueller. She's been with me off and on for about 20 some years. Her and she used to work with Ken Hankey,
Okay,
if you remember those
sure.
days back with the Mountain Express. And um, we used to all get together and talk about movies. And when the Mountain Express kind of pulled back from her a bit, because they were going to go another direction and eventually stop doing movie reviews at all. And then she started writing for me, and then had quit for a couple of years, and then is back again. And we don't really agree on anything when it comes to film, but I really like her writing, and I respect her uh, you know her intelligence when it comes to um, what she writes.
Do you have a copy of the magazine in front of you there, or you have it handy?
No.
Okay, well, somewhere we'll get it. But let me ask you this: so if people want to read the magazine, how do they find it?
Uh, I'm at like 400 locations in Western North Carolina. Um, Pretty much what I've done is I focused on putting them in art related areas, such as galleries. And that way, so um, I found that having the magazine, let's say at a lot of, the coffee shops or restaurants, the people that are picking them up aren't necessarily going to be interested in the magazine about art. They're just kind of thinking that, hey, this might be something we want to do, and they open it up and then they're disappointed. And so if you're already interested in art and you pick it up, it does offer a lot of information.
So they pick it up because I've seen it in town. I guess it's also in you have these what not kiosks, but they're in
Yeah,
booths,
kiosks.
right? You can pick them up too.
Mhm.
Even that probably was a learning experience for you, because all of a sudden you're printing them. How many issues do you typically print each month?
5,000.
Okay.
And then uh the website. So it used to be a lot more pre-COVID. But then things kind of changed. I changed the whole philosophy, because the philosophy I had before was reach as many people for as little amount of money as possible to get it out there. And then my new philosophy is now to reach a maximum amount of people, but in a niche audience. So people that are already, and then it eliminates having to print all those extra issues. And I think that model has worked for me very well.
Well, even what you do too is kind of, um, I guess, time consuming, because after you get the 5,000 issues, then you have to get them to all these newsstands or kiosks. Is that
Yeah, I
something
used
you?
to have to because I've hired some people to help me distribute, and because it's like we're in Highlands and Cashers, Tryon, Hendersonville, Flat Rock, and then all the way up north to like Hot Springs and
Okay,
Bakersville, Burnsville, and all these little towns. And again, they're only at the galleries and then, or art related areas, you know, such as even Brevard or Hendersonville. There might be a few at public areas, but majority I try to keep at galleries or so.
So when you started this, I guess you were the guy running around all over town and everywhere else distributing these copies.
Yeah,
So a lot of mileage you put in your car and a lot of effort on it. How
a
many
lot of mileage. Yeah.
how many pages is an issue typically?
Usually, you know, like January is a little slow, but typically it's going to run around 72 to 80 pages.
Okay, it's a beautiful. It's too bad we didn't have a copy handy, but it's a beautiful magazine that people look at it. But what impresses me is that you just had this idea and you just started putting together without any formal training as a magazine
Nope.
publisher.
And then basically, you know, I'd say probably, you know, when COVID hit, it forced me to reanalyze what I was doing. And so I did a lot of studying that year when nothing was really going on, and learned how to better put together what I want to get across. And that's focusing on the arts and not, you know, it's not an ad rag or, uh, you know, I do articles on anyone who's in the arts if I find them interesting, or if they're like somebody I may not like their art, but they're well liked too. There's that, you know, it has they're making a statement or move, and I find that very fascinating. Just the articles, and I mean, as you know, to write those articles, I find it fascinating, and I figure that if I like it, that you know, readers might enjoy it as well. And since I've been doing that, uh, the magazine has really taken off in the sense of people reading it and responding, coming, you know, sending me emails or what have you.
How many pages is you just mentioned 72 to 80.
Mhm.
Does that mean how many different articles do you have each month?
Well, I usually I usually write about according to Grammarly, I use that as an editing program,
Right.
and it's like around 100,000 words I do each month. Somehow, because with rewrites and all that, and it averages out. I do about 28 articles
Wow. Each month?
each month, and sometimes more. December killed me because I was doing one-page articles versus two, and it was like almost 80 pages. And then you're doing all the work. Two pages take about as much effort as one page as far as um, time, because writing a smaller article isn't any easier than writing a
Sure.
larger one. So,
Aside from you, do you have other people? You mentioned a couple of columnists. Can other people come forward to write for you, or do you welcome input from others?
um, well, it just depends. I mean, if they've got something they want to submit, you know, that's always welcome. I try to get the magazine to be a singular, since I, you know, came up with this idea that it was just more of kind of like it's my monthly art project. Like this is what I do, and this is my creativity, and so I use it as like I'm like a voice that people that kind of ties everything together. And we do themes. Um, like last month's theme was, or this month's theme was collage, and then in December it was all about the galleries, and I'm doing an article, I mean, an issue on migration, change, and migration, movement, and change, and that's the theme for March. That's coming up, and then of course February's already working on that now.
Do people come to you with ideas for future stories and articles to write?
Sometimes, mostly, people that come to me are, you know, they're businesses, and they send me a press release, and then I don't run press releases, so everything I do, I write. I'll just rewrite it and put it together, and then send them a proof. I always send a proof, and that's because I can't really um, afford a a copy editor and someone that could actually come in and do all that. Um, and so that way I send them a proof, and between them and me, we usually catch everything, or try mostly everything.
Now, when you write, are you a writer? I'm always amazed by writers as well. Is this something you do every morning at 7 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up right for 5 hours? Or how do you do your writing on a daily basis?
I like the mornings. In the winter, I've got 3 kids, and so I have got to pack them up and get them to school uh, by 8. And my oldest, Harrison, he's driving and that has saved me a lot of time, just him going to school by himself, not having to take him. And then Vincent, the youngest, and Nicholas, the middle, and they go to all 3 of them go to different schools. So it's nice to only have to take, and it's still hard to get them to 2 separate schools on 2 different parts of the city. So
So,
yeah, that gets a little complicated at times. It's
so
just being a single
after you,
father. And
after you get them going, then that's when you do your writing?
yeah, I usually do my writing in the mornings, and uh, I basically it takes me about 2 days um, to finish an article. So if let's say I do 28 articles, there's a bunch of little ones that really require very little effort, but the major ones, um, if they're like a lot requires a lot of research. And I did one on like the Folk Art Center, and it was like I spent like a week on it, just one article. And then other articles I'll spend, I can write 2 or 3 a day, and some takes about 2 days.
Had you ever studied as a writer, or did you ever take journalism courses anywhere along the line?
Yeah, I did. I graduated with a bachelor's in English, and I thought that would be kind of fun to be a professor. And then I found out I really don't like teaching, let alone getting in front of people. I, I'm not comfortable, and so I didn't know what I was going to do with my degree. And to be honest, I never have used it other than in personal gains. I've never used it to get a job because I've never had a job other than waiting tables, and then started the magazine.
So you also mentioned you have a website. Talk about what's on that. Is that the whole magazine or parts of the magazine? If people go there, what do they get?
Well, they're going to get a full magazine. It's rapidrivermagazine.com, and it basically is an animated publication that you click on it, and it'll flip the pages like as if it were there in front of you. And then if you like an ad, some of the ads have links on them, and you click on it and it goes right to their website. But the articles are readable by you can zoom in on them. It's basically like having an ebook. So it has the nice sound when you flip the pages and the animation of making it look like you're really um, there holding the thing.
Now, even that, how'd you learn all those skills? In other words, did you learn them on YouTube, or how'd you pick up
Pretty,
all
yeah,
this stuff?
yeah, yeah. YouTube. Now, of course, when I started out, there was no YouTube, and so it was trial and error. And we used to have to use stack cameras and cut and paste and glue
Right.
everything down. And I had learned that working in school, um, what the like the newspaper, school newspaper, and how to. So I had somewhat of a familiarity with that, but I had someone. I've always had someone to do the layout for me up until just recently.
So now you do the layout also?
Yeah, I do the layout and the art design and everything. So I create it, and it's basically just a publication that is an extension of who I am. And then at the same time, it's like I never do anything, never write articles that are going to be self-serving or articles that are untruthful. So um I'm not going to say anything bad about anyone, but I I I respect their art. And so if I'm doing a story on them, I respect them. But I'm not going to, if I say, hey, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, this guy's the greatest painter since Leonardo. Um, and what I do is I'm honest about their approach and what they do and how they do it, and we talk about process. And because there's definitely people out there that um alike. Every artist, you know, every artist has got somewhat of a following, unless they're just starting out. And that's pretty much the people I do not like to interview are ones that are just starting out because they have really nothing to talk about. You kind of, I mean, as far as interviewing goes,
Right.
you know, like it's more fun to talk to people who've been around the block a couple times, talk about, you know, things that didn't quite work out, or you know, they have sometimes some humorous antidotes that make the interview more fun to read.
Now, do you do all your photography as well?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I do the photography. And it's so funny though is I got this camera and I think it's 80D 80D I forget, whatever. And I've got all the lenses. It's really nice. And then I bought the iPhone 15, and the darn thing takes just as good of pictures, and it's
Yeah,
easier to lug around.
I was going to say a lot easier, and you don't have to trip around all the stuff. But it
Yeah.
sounds like, listening to you, I'm just fascinated by the fact that it sounds also like you probably don't get very much sleep, you know, doing all this. Aside from,
Yeah, there are times where I'd say I probably, yeah. You know, there are days where I'll start at 6 in the morning and then finish at 12 at night and never take a break. Uh, those are usually towards the end. And you know, if you miss time things, sometimes you wind up having more hours at the end than you want to. And it's just a matter of, you know, as long as I stick to the schedule, I should finish without putting those hours in. But things happen, things come up and change all that.
but to put out, you know, just 72 to 80 page magazine with a staff of one, you know, sounds like you keep a little busy doing this all the time.
Yeah.
What do you see? Let me ask you this, Dennis, moving forward. So, I mean, it's very impressive that you've been doing this since 1979. So we're
Oh,
20,
97.
excuse me, 1997. But have you ever missed an issue in all that time,
No,
even with
no, I've
COVID?
done. Yeah. What I did during COVID is I quit printing for a year,
Right,
and because everybody quit, and I was just me, and I was like, didn't really know what to do, and I didn't even know if the where the economy was going. I mean, none of us really did, and so I just had it online, and that's when I developed the animation and a lot of the real nice online stuff. But I've got it on this. It's called Magster. Anyway, it's an international art. It's international, like a it's like YouTube. So it has all these magazines, from like Time magazine to whatever, and hotels can subscribe to it. And so when their guests come in, they can read any magazine they want to read, just like YouTube, and it's, or I mean Netflix, you know, something like that, where they can watch any show. Well, this way it gives the hotels this flexibility to offer all the magazines, and so I'm in that, and I don't know the numbers, but it does reach. Apparently, it reaches over like they say like 60 million people. They're all of
right.
them, not each individual one, obviously. But I've never gotten any stats back as to if anyone's even read my publication or not. Um, it is on the first page of their art section, so there's that.
So where do you see the magazine going from this point on?
I have no idea. I'm just getting old. It's like,
Join the crowd.
yeah, so I don't know where it's going to go because it just seems like it's very time consuming, a lot of work, but I enjoy it. I love doing it, but I don't know if it's ever going to be more than I mean, I definitely know that I never want it to be more than what it is. Then, you know, to actually go back to having people dealing with people. I think it's just so much better having it be the way I'm doing it now. I really enjoy it. That may change, you know, maybe someday in the future I'll be like, oh yeah, maybe it would be nice to get a layout person and let them do things.
So you don't see yourself taking this on the road to doing another 3 or 4 or 5, 10 cities?
No, no. I read a book called Sticky Fingers. if you've heard of that, it's about Jan Warner, the guy
Right.
that invented a Rolling Stone, and it was everything fell into place, for him when he was young, and then he was able to take it off. But I think when you get to a certain age, it's just like, it just seems like a lot of work to, try to do it in reaching more people.
Well, except I'm just thinking a couple of years when your oldest son gets older, maybe you can get him to be picking this up, pick up some of the slack.
You would think, but they all hate it.
Oh, do they?
Except for my youngest. My youngest still likes, when they're little, they love to go distribute, and then, but as they get older, they don't see it's to them it's archaic because of it's newspaper and it's words, and they're not into that. And no matter how hard I raise them, to enjoy reading, it has not really stuck very well with them. And I think it's pretty much that whole generation in general.
Well, hey, Dennis Ray, I'd like to thank you for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's
Yeah,
World webcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And one more time, if they can have you give information about two things. One, in terms of the website again, if you would give that website again.
yeah, it's rapidrivermagazine.com.
Okay, and the best bet, if people really want to see it or get a feel for it, is to find it, I guess, in town. In Asheville, if they look in, best place to
Pretty much
find it.
anywhere, yeah, any gallery in the River Arts District, downtown, Black Mountain, Waynesville, Hendersonville. It's at pretty much at all the galleries, and they're also at a few other art related areas as well. And if they ever, are curious as to if they could always send me an email, drop me an email, and say what are the nearest ones to me, and I can give them a list of all the ones that are locations that are
By the way,
near.
since you mentioned, I'll give you a chance to just mention the email then. If someone wants to email you, what's your email address?
It's Dennis at rapidrivermagazine.com.
Okay, like, thank you then, Dennis, being my guest. And hopefully someday we'll bump into each other somewhere. Okay, buddy?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks again.